Hello everyone, welcome. It's Juliet here. Hi. Today we are going to be working on a pendant necklace using materials out of the Eureka Crystal Beads Bubblescence collection, which is absolutely gorgeous. And I love the collection. I highly recommend, if you haven't already got it, that you go and grab it if it's still available, because it will go very quickly. It is absolutely gorgeous. Okay, I do have an unboxing if you want to go and check that out so you can see everything that's in it. I am going to be teaching you today how to make this top section and this section here and show you how I joined it. There are several options for finishing. I haven't finished mine off yet, as you can see. I'm kind of debating. So you could add a bail at the top here if you wanted. You could add some sides here if you wanted to, or you could actually just add sides coming out from here. And I haven't quite decided how I want to finish it off. I am going to be using, I know kind of which beads I'll be using. I'm just not sure where I want to connect on. So anyway, but we can learn this in the meantime. This is the back of it. I will be using a different color for the pink. I just threw those in, but I will not do that this time. This was kind of my prototype, okay? And this is quite sturdy. It doesn't, it's hefty. It doesn't move around at all, okay? Both of these pieces are very solid, so you don't need to worry about them flopping, okay? So let me quickly run through the materials because there are a lot. Not gonna lie, there are a lot. Okay, so the star of the piece is this 16 millimeter Rivoli. This is the color Aqua Transmission, and I am absolutely in love with this. You get two of these in the Bubblescence collection, and you also get two that are in a 12 millimeter size, which I'm probably going to use to make a pair of earrings, which I'll show you that in another video. But anyway, these are gorgeous, so you're going to need one of those. You're also going to need an 8 millimeter Chaton, the SS39 size, okay? This one, we got 4 different colors. This one is the Lite Sapphire AB glitter. Now, we did get a Lavender AB glitter and an Aquamarine AB glitter. Either of those would also work, but I decided to use the Sapphire to give a little bit of color variation to this lower section here. Because if I use the lavender or the Aquamarine, it would kind of be very samey. So just to give a little bit of variation and to kind of tie in with the blues that are in this one, I decided to use that Sapphire, okay? But you can use whatever. If you want to use the pink one, go for it, you know? I have here 2 8 millimeter Czech Druks, which are just Czech glass rounds for those who don't know what a Druk is, okay? They are only used, I use those here and here just as part of the embellishment. I'll probably use some up here as well. But I love that because they look like bubbles, and to me that's like the most fun part of the whole box was that we actually got some glass bubbles. They're not bubbles, they're not hollow or anything, but you know, I just think they're so fun because they do look like they give the appearance of bubbles, okay? Okay, so starting over here, you're gonna need 6 crystal bicones. They go on this lower section here. I'm using some Chinese 2 by 3 millimeter Rondelles, crystal Rondelles, okay, in this very pretty kind of aqua blue color. This is called Blue Iris Mix. So you're going to need quite a lot of those. We have 6 on the front here. We also have 6 on the front here, 6 on the back of this lower section, and we have 6 here as well. So you're going to need 24 of those, okay? I'll probably use some in the chain as well. You're going to need some wave beads. These are 2-hole Czech glass waves. This color is absolutely gorgeous. It is called Tropical Blue Grape, and I just love the color of this. So I will put links for the collection. If you go to the collection, you can scroll down and see all of the ingredients in the collection on the website, and you can, if you just want that, you can just buy that straight out of the collection. All right, 6mm Czech Firepolish beads in this beautiful Lavender AB. You only need 6 of those. They are on our larger component here. You can kind of see them there, okay, on the edge. And I mean, you can use some for, stringing as well. Then some 3mm Druks or Czech glass rounds. These are Rosaline AB. I have used more than half on this, and because I have to make a second for the video, I didn't have any more of those, so I've pulled out some 3mm clear Druks that I had, so I'll be using them kind of where you don't see them so much, like around this middle pit here, just on my one for the video. Okay, so pretend that's all that one color. You will have plenty in your collection. If you have the collection, you'll have enough to make this, okay? And then here I have some Toho Treasures, silver lined luster gray. Then I have some bugle beads, which are only used on the back. These are Miyuki 6mm bugles, and you need 8 of those for the bezel on the back. I like to cover up my the back of my Rivolis because I just like to protect them in the long term against, being rubbed and hit, and, when you lay it down, the point kind of bashes on the table or whatever. So it just kind of protects it a little bit. And then also we have seed beads. So all of these came out from this mix that you got. So we had 8 O's in a white color, which I've picked out. Okay, it's kind of a frosted white color. Sorry, those are not 8 O's. Those are 11 O's. 11 O's is what I mean. So they're in this kind of frosty white color. And then we also have some 15 O's. So you're going to have to be very careful about picking those out. Don't get confused with your 11s, but you're going to need those as well. So if you want to pick some out, separate them out, or you can just pick directly out of your mix. We have some more 15 O's here. These are green ones. And I just dropped a 15 over there. And then we have some more 11s, which are these lavender ones that I'm using today. So we've got white and lavender 11 O's, okay? So 2 colors of 11s and 2 colors of 15s. You do not need any 8 O's for this project. I'm using a size 10 beading needle, and I am using today some Fireline 6-pound in crystal, okay? I also have here a head pin just to attach my little bubble at the bottom on, so grab one of those if you don't have one. And I think that's everything. I am planning to use my toggle clasp as the clasp for my necklace once I figure out the last bit of it. So I grabbed that out of the collection as well. All right. So to begin, go ahead, thread your needle, and you're going to leave a 4-inch tail. What you're going to do is pick up one of your 3mm Druks, and then one 11O, and I'm using the lavender, okay? And you're going to do that 12 times. So Druk, 11O, Druk, 11O, okay? So go ahead, do that until you have 12. Okay, and once you have 12, you're going to push down, leaving that 4-inch tail, and you're going to sew through the very first Druk that you added on nearest to your tail in order to form a circle. Okay, so you should have a circle like this. Then you're going to pick up 5 of your Toho treasures. Okay, so 5. You're going to go through the same Druk that you're exiting from. So my thread was going in this direction, so I'm kind of going backwards. I'm going through the Druk again, through the next 11-0 and the next Druk. Okay, you're going to pull that and it will form a little loop like this around the Druk. You're going to repeat this, but you're only going to pick up 4 of your Toho treasures, okay? So pick up 4. And the 5th one, we're going to share it. So we're going to use the one that's right before our Druk. So we're going to go through that one there. That's our 5th Toho treasure, okay? And then we're going to go through our Druk, through our 11-0, and through the next Druk as well, okay? Pull, and it's again going to form a little loop. You're going to repeat this, adding 4 until you get to the very last one, which is a little bit different. So pick up 4 again, go through that last treasure, go through the next Druk, through the 11-0, and the Druk after that. Okay, so like that. And you could use pearls instead of Druks if you wanted. That would give a different look, and I'm sure it would look very pretty. Okay, I'm just going to whiz through this, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I have reached the end here where I have to do my very last one. So for the last one, your first Toho treasure is you're going to go up through the first one on the ring in front of you. Okay, that's going to be your number 1 bead. And then you're going to pick up 3. And your number 5 bead will be this shared bead here. And then you're going to pass through that Druk to finish off that circle, okay? When you pull it, now we have a ring that looks like this, okay? Okay, so once you're coming out from that Druk, you can go ahead and move forward through the treasure that's in the middle there, okay? And at this point, you're going to want to move up through the next 2 beads in order to come out from that 3rd bead. So 1, 2, 3, okay? So come out from that 3rd bead. Make sure that your tail is coming up through the middle of your ring, because otherwise it might accidentally get buried down below. So just make sure that your tail is kind of up on the top here, okay? And we're gonna flip over and kind of be working on the back, okay? So I'm now going not in the way I want to go, but that's okay. All right, you're gonna pick up 2 of your treasures and you're going to go into the middle bead on the next loop. So you should have 2 shared beads and then 3 in the middle here. So we're going through that 2nd bead, okay? And you're going to pull and it's going to kind of cup in a little bit. All right, so pick up 2. Again, go through the 2nd bead on the next loop and pull, okay? So just keep going all the way around, adding 2 beads and sewing into the 2nd bead on the next loop. So it's kind of like this, okay? And on your very last one, you're just going to count from the middle bead, 1, 2, 3, and that is the bead that you are going into. Okay, so it should now kind of look like this, and at this point you're going to want to get your Rivoli, put it face down in so that the Czech beads are on the top, okay, and then you're going to kind of tighten up around your Rivoli. Okay, so should kind of be stuck in there. And if your circle looks a little bit weird, that's okay. We're going to do something to kind of help that in a minute, but you can just kind of try, take a second to snug it in there. All right. So this is not yet snug at all. All right, so we're going to move up through the very next bead. Okay. So you're coming out from one in the group of 2, all right? You're going to pick up one of your bugles. You're going to pick up one 11-0, and I'm picking up a lavender this time. And then you're going to pick up another bugle. So bugle, 11-0 bugle. You're going to skip over the next group of 2 and the following group of 2 right here. You're going to sew into this second bead. Okay, so not the first one, but the second one. So I've skipped that bead next to me, these 2 here, and then the first one here, I'm sewing into the second one. Okay, and you're gonna create a little kind of triangle like that, okay? Then you're going to skip the next lower down bead and go into the first bead of this upper group, okay? So just sew forward straight into the first bead of those 2. And you're going to repeat with your bugles. So you're going to pick up a bugle, an 11-0, and a bugle. Skip the next group entirely and sew into the second bead of the next group. Then you're again going to move forward into the very first bead of the next group. So don't just skip that lower bead down there and go straight into the first bead of the next group of 2, okay? Again with the bugles, so bugle, 11, and a bugle. Skip the next group, so into the second bead of that group plus the first bead of the next group of 2, again skipping that lower down bead. And one more time, you're going to pick up a bugle, an 11, and a bugle. Skip the next group, so into the second bead, and then sew up into the first bead of the next group, skipping that lower down bead, and you can continue on up into your bugle, okay? That first bugle that you added there. So it should now look like this. We're going to go through the 11-0. You're going to go straight into the next 11-0 over. We're going to close these in. Okay, so just go through all 4 of those 11-0s at the top of the bugles. And you have to go through the first one more time just to finish that, okay? So pull inwards, okay? So we have this shape here, okay? Okay, so once you have your little pyramid shape here, you're going to move down through the first bugle that you have here, okay? you're going to sew through the 3 treasures that are down below. So you should have kind of one immediately below, and then the point one, and then the next one, okay? And then you're going to go up through the next bugle. So we're just kind of reinforcing this, okay? And then you're going to move forward through the 8-0 right here. I mean the 11-0, sorry. So coming out from this 11-0, you're going to pick up 4 of your 15-0 seed beads. So I'm using the green ones here, okay? The 2 treasures that are in the middle here, you're going to sew backwards through them. So I'm working in this direction at the moment, so I'm going back towards where I just came from, okay? Then you're going to pick up 3 more 15-0s, 3 more 15-0s. You're going to go through the top 15-0 that you just added and pull that. So we now have a little kind of triangle shape here, okay? You're going to move forward through the 11-0, okay? Then you're going to go down through the next bugle bead. You're going to again pass through those 3 Toho treasures that are down below. So 1, 2, 3, and up the next bugle bead and through the 11-0 at the top. Pick up 4 of your 15-0s, work backwards through those 2 treasures, pick up 3 and go up through the middle one. So that one's a shared one. Sorry, the top one is a shared one, the top one. Move forward through the 11-0 at the top. Okay, so you have to always do that little step right there, move forward, and then you're going to go down through the next bugle and pass through those Toho treasures, okay? So you're going to do that 2 more times. Okay, and when you finish doing that, you may want to run around that central ring of 11-0s one more time just to pull them all together nicely. And there may be a tiny bit of thread showing here, but don't worry about it because, you know, this is the back, so no one's gonna see the back. Okay, so that is our back area is now closed in. Okay. Okay, so once you have finished with that, we're going to work our way down through the next bugle, okay, and through the first 2 beads that we passed through earlier, okay. So the one that's immediately below the bugle, and then the next one, which is kind of between the 2 bugles here, okay? So you want to come out from that one, which is also like at the bottom of this little dip here, okay? See the, if that's the top, we have this little V shape. So we're coming out from this bead here, okay, on our V, all right? We're going to pick up one of our 3mm. I'm going to switch and use my non-colored ones, but all right, so you're going to pick up one of those. You're going to pick up an 11-0. Sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze. You're going to pick up a 6mm fire polish bead, you're going to pick up another of your 11 O's and one more of your 3mm rounds. So we have 3mm, 11O, 6mm, 11O, 3mm. Okay, I'm coming out from that lower down bead right there. All right, I'm going to skip at the next group. All right, and then the next where the next 3mm is, I'm going to go into the bead that is there, kind of at the bottom of that group there. Okay, and when you pull it, it's going to add this. Okay, so you're going to have that. We're going to repeat, so you're going to pick up 3mm, an 11O, a 6mm, an 11O, and a 3mm. Again, you're going to skip underneath the next 3mm. Sorry, this one. That's the one I'm underneath right now, so I'm skipping that one, and then under the next one, I'm going through that middle lower down bead. Okay, and you're going to pull. Okay, so like this. So you're going to do this until you have 6 going around your bezel. Okay, so I'm about to add my last group, and I'm just going to sew into the Toho treasure where I started from, so where that first group came out from. Just sew into there. Okay, and if any of them seem really loose, what you might want to do is like pull around your circle in the order that you sewed to get any slack out, and then when you pull that last one, they should all move forward, so they should kind of be in quite tight. Okay, so it looks like this, and these are floppy right now. Okay, so once you've completed that, you're going to move up through that very first 3mm through the 11O, and you're going to go through the 6mm and through the 11O. Okay, so you're coming out from the 11O. We're going to pick up 2 of our wave beads. So first of all, just make sure that you can get through both holes before you decide to use that one. Okay. Hang on. Okay, so those are both good. So for the wave beads, you can either sew into like the dip side, okay, or you can sew into the kind of hump side, and that's going to be important at this point. Okay, so the first one we're going to sew into is the dip side. Okay, so I'm sewing into the dip, right, and then I'm going to sew through the hump of the next one, so that they should look like this. All right, so sew through the dip side, then through the hump side. You're going to sew through the 11O that is in front of the next 6mm fire polish bead. Okay, then you are going to pick up, let me just quickly check because I can't remember, 3 of your 11Os, and I used the white ones for this. Okay, so pick up 3 11Os. You're going to sew through the 3mm that is above the next. So I'm coming out here, so this is like the next fire polish bead. I'm sewing through that 3mm. Okay, like this, and this is going to give us a little bit of structural support. All right, then we're going to pick up 3 more of our 11Os, and we're going to sew forward through the next 11-0 that's after the fire polish. So you should have 2 little lines of 11-0s on each side of the fire polish, okay? You're going to, again, pick up your wave beads. So you're going into a dip and then into a hump. So through the dip, then the hump, and then sew forward into the next 11-0. And then you're going to repeat and pick up 3 11-0s. 1, 2, 3. And sew through the 3mm that is up above the fire polish, okay? So you're going to do that all the way around. You pick up 3, go down here. You're going to sew through your 2, pick up 3, 3, okay? So I'll finish that off screen and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I have made it almost all the way around. I'm adding my last group of 3 here, and you have to go into that 11-0 that is after your fire polish and before your wave beads, which can be a little bit difficult to see, but that's where you're going, okay? So you're going to pop in there. And so your piece should now not be floppy. It should feel solid, okay? Hopefully it does. All right, okay, so once you have that on and you've come out through that 11-0 that's tucked in there, go ahead, pass through the next 2 waves. Okay, you're going to pass through the 11-0 and through the fire polish bead. Okay, you're going to sew up through the first 2 white 11-0s that you just added in the last round. Try not to get yourself caught there like I did, okay? So coming up 2, we're going to pick up 1 rondelle. We're going to go down the bottom 2 on this side in order to sit our rondelle up above our fire polish like this, okay? So you went up 2, added your fire polish, went down 2. You're going through that fire polish bead. You're going to pick up an 11-0 and you're going to go into the outer hole of the wave. Then you're going to pick up a 15-0, another of your 3mm round beads, and a 15-0. So I picked up green ones here, okay? So those are your 3mm. You're going to go through the outside hole of the next wave bead, like this, okay? And then you're going to pick up an 11. I'm picking up lavender for these 11s. You're going to go through the next fire polish bead like this. Okay, you're going to go up the first 2, pick up a rondelle, down the next 2, through the fire polish, pick up an 11, go through the next outside hole, and you're just going to repeat this all the way around, okay? So I will do that off screen. I'm going to have to add more thread, and then we'll finish this component in a second, and then we'll work on the lower down component, okay? Okay, I added on some more thread and I finished going around. I just put this unit on, and then I need to just put my last 11-0 and go through the fire polish bead, okay? And then we have one more kind of reinforcing round to do. So these outer bits are going, and these sticking up bits may get, you know, knocked about a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the 11-0 that leads to the outside hole of our waves. We're going to go through all 3 beads in between the waves here, okay? Again, come out from that 11-0 right there, okay? We're going to pick up one more 11-0, and again, I'm using lavender here. So I'm coming out right here. I'm going to go up through all 3 of those seed beads right there, okay, on the top. So I have one extra bead that's kind of covering up the stuff down below there. You're going to go through your 3mm on the top, okay. You're going to go down that first seed bead of that group of 3, the next group of 3. You're going to pass backwards through the rondelle on the top. So we now have 2 threads going through here, okay? And then you're going to again go through that top seed bead. You're going to go through the 3mm Druk, and then you're going to go down all 3 of these seed beads. And then you're going to pick up another 11-0, and you're going to sew forward through your wave, through the beads inside the wave area here. Okay, so there's my seed bead I just added. So through there, come out from your wave, pick up a seed bead, go straight up through the next 3 beads leading up, okay? This, gonna go through the Druk, down through here, back through here, okay? So what you're doing here is you come up all 3, you go through the Druk, you go down 1, you go backwards through here, then you have to circle back around, so you go up 1 through the Druk and then down 3, add a bead, and then go over, okay? So you're going to do that all the way around, and it's just going to help reinforce everything. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back. Okay, so once you've finished off reinforcing those beads and these little outer bits, you're kind of done. There is one optional thing you can do, which is sew up your first little strand here, and you can add a 15-0 next to your 11-0. The only danger is it can pop up a little bit sometimes. It's kind of hard to get them in there. I did it here just to add a little bit of extra sparkle in the reflection on the Rivoli, and I like the way it looks. It is very fiddly though, so you might not want to do that. So I'm giving you the option if you want to add that little 15-0. So basically you'll just go around the 3mm and then add a 15-0, pass through the next one. The difficulty is that you have to keep your thread on the inside of that 3mm and make sure that you're always sewing in the inside so that those 15-0s sit in there like that. Okay, so that's a little optional extra for you. If you have enough thread left over, leave it on so that you can do this area, you know, the joining up. If you don't, you can tie in your ends at this point on this bit, and then we're going to begin on our lower down section. So go ahead, get yourself a fresh piece of thread. This time sort of 4 feet should be plenty for this little area. Okay, so once you have finished that, I've just left one thread attached. I do want to say, when you're attaching this to something, do be careful that, you know, if you're attaching it to the bottom, there's definitely like a top and a bottom to this. If you look on the back here, you want this to kind of, you know, it kind of looks weird if you attach it like here and then your back's all skewed. So make sure that when you are attaching that you have it set up, you know, top to bottom, okay? I mean, it doesn't matter for the front, but for the back if you want it to look good. Just be aware of that, okay, on that bigger unit. Okay, we're going to work on our small unit now, and this is a fantastically easy and nice little bezel, and honestly I think it would make a great little earring as well. So I might make some as earrings. So we're going to get started with that. So go ahead, get yourself a new piece of thread and find yourself, sorry that thread's in the way. Save yourself kind of your, standard tail to weave in at the end, okay? You're going to pick up, and I just moved these over here so I'm not reaching over. You're going to pick up 6 of your rondelles spaced with 1 of your 11-O's. So I'm using the lavender 11-O's for that, okay? So you just pick up rondelle, 11-O, rondelle until you have 6, okay? Okay, so once you have 6 rondelles and 11-O's on your needle, push them down and just sew through the first couple of rondelles. So through the 11-O as well, obviously that's in between, but just sew through like 2 rondelles to form a circle. Okay, so you should have this. You're going to it's kind of similar to what we did before, okay? So we're going to pick up an 11-O. We're going to pick up 1 of our 3mm rounds, okay? Czech rounds. You're going to pick up another 11-O, another round, and another 11-O. And I'm using the lavender for these. So you're doing 11, round 11, round 11. Push all down. And you're coming out from a rondelle. You're going to sew through that rondelle plus the next 11 plus the next rondelle, okay? So I'm sewing, that's what I have on my thread, and I'm sewing through the same rondelle. So I'm entering in the other side plus that plus the next rondelle, okay? And pull, and it's going to form a little loop like this, okay? And then this time you're just going to pick up an 11, a 3mm, an 11, and a 3mm. So you're not going to pick up the last 11. So this is kind of like what we did on the last, to start the last one. We're going to share the 11 that's right here. That one's going to be shared, okay? So I only picked up 11 3mm, 11 3mm. That's our last one, okay? So we're sharing it from this loop here, not the one in between, it's the one on the loop, okay? And then you're going to go through the rondelle, the 11-O, and the next rondelle, okay? So I'm going through the last one on the loop, rondelle, 11, rondelle, and pull, okay? So it's going to be like this. You're going to repeat that all the way around. On the last one, you're not going to pick up the very first 11-O. You're going to share the 11-O from the first group, okay? So again, once again, you're picking up 11 3mm, 11 3mm. You're going through the last 11-O on the group before, and then you're passing through the same rondelle that you're exiting from the seed bead and the next rondelle, okay? All right, I'm going to whiz around through this. And so when you get to where you're at your last rondelle, you're going to go up that very first 11-O that we added. So that one's going to be shared, okay? So you're going to go up there, and then you're just going to pick up your 3mm another 11/0, and another 3mm. Okay, so 3, 11, 3, and then you're going to go down just like you did before, the shared bead here. So we're sharing this one and we're sharing this one, okay? We're only adding 3 beads. And you can go ahead and go through the rondelle, the 11/0, and the next rondelle, just like what you've been doing, okay? Okay, so now you're going to go up through the 11 and the 3mm through the next 11 at the tip here, okay? And through the 3mm and the next 11. So you want to be facing in towards the center of the circle, okay? Like this. Make sure that your tail is on the bottom. If it isn't, you're going to need to poke it through the hole so that it does go down, okay? All right, so this is the really cool part of this bezel. Well, I think it's cool anyway. All right, we're going to pick up one of our rondelles. You're going to pick up 3 of your seed beads, and I'm just checking what color I picked up. I picked up the lavender ones, okay? So pick up 3. Trying to find another one. That's one. Okay, so you're going to pick up rondelle, 3 seed beads, and another rondelle, and you're going to go down into the next bead right here, okay? So like this. You're going to pass over the next little go around the next section here, okay? You're going to pick up a rondelle and 3 seed beads. So go ahead, pick up a rondelle and 3 seed beads. You're going to sew down through the previous rondelle, through the 11/0 that's there. Okay. So it's like this, okay? And then you're going to pass forward. When you get to where you're coming out from this seed bead, okay, you're going to pick up, sorry about that, I had to double check what we're picking up here. So you're coming out from your point, you're going to pick up a 15 and 11, so I'm picking up a lavender, a 3mm, an 11, and a 15. So 15, 11, 3mm, 11, 15. Coming out this point here, I'm going to go into the very next over point, okay? And then I'm going to pass down through the 3mm and the 11/0, okay? You're going to pick up a rondelle and 3 11/0s. Okay, a rondelle and 3 11/0s. You're going to sew down through the previous rondelle, through that 11/0, okay? That's underneath the rondelle. And you're going to go up through the 3mm and through the 11-0 at the end. And then you're going to pick up again a 15, an 11, 3 millimeter, 11, 15, okay? So 15, 0, 11, 3 millimeter, 11, and 15. You're going to go into the next point, okay? And you're going to continue to do this all the way around, okay? So you're going to move forward through your 3 millimeter and the 11-0. You're going to pick up a rondelle, 3 11-0s. You're going to sew back down into this rondelle. You're going to come down through the 11, through here to here, and then you're going to add your 15-0, your 11, 3 millimeter, 11, 15, and then you're going to, so this is kind of the pattern that we're working in, okay? And I'll show you what to do when you get back to here. So I'll just do the next two off camera, okay? Okay, so I'm adding on the outside bit, and I'm gonna do my very last little inner bit here. So you go through the 3 millimeter, through the 11-0 just like you normally do, and here you don't need to add a rondelle. You can just go up the one that's already here, okay? Go ahead and pop in your chaton face up, okay, like this, and you're going to pick up your 3 11-0s. I had to pour some more out, so okay, you're going to pick up your 3 11-0s. You're going to go down through the previous rondelle and through the 11 at the base there, okay? Just trying to make sure that I don't get my threads crossed there. So this is not in yet, okay, so you're gonna have to hold it in. And then you'll need to add your last two outer bits here, okay? So that's your 15-0, 11-0, 3 millimeter, 11-0, and 15-0. So go ahead and add the last two. Okay, and when you're adding your very last loop here, okay, so it should now look like this. You can go ahead and sew up through the 3 millimeter, through that 11-0, and up through the rondelle, okay? Just make sure you're holding in your chaton here, okay? And then you can pass forward, so you should have 3 11s going across here. You're going to go into the middle one, okay? And we're going to add 2 of our 11-0s, sorry, our 15-0s. Gonna add 2 15-0s, and I'm using the white ones here. And you're going to sew into the middle bead of the next group of 3. So there's our group of 3, so just sew through the second bead, okay? And when you pull that, it should make a little kind of triangle shape, okay? So you're just going to continue doing that times 6, okay? So pick up 2, go into the middle bead of the next group here, and this is going to hold our chaton in place. Once it's all done, you should have a kind of a hexagon shape when it's all done, okay? I'm just going to speed through this. And when you're adding your last one, you're just going into, there's a group of 3, so you're just going into that one that has the 2 coming out of it already, okay? So like this, okay? And I highly recommend that you go around again and just reinforce this, okay? Okay, so once you are done reinforcing that inside layer, you don't need to go around a ton of times because we're going to go around it again in a second, okay? So you're exiting, you should be exiting from one of the 11 O's on that. You're going to pick up one of your 4mm bicones, and this is honestly like my favorite part of this bezel, okay? So if you could look straight down to where the two 3mm join, and there's that 11O there, you're going to sew backwards through the 11O, okay? Then you're going to sew up through the bicone that you just added, and then you're going to sew forward through the 11O that you started in, the two 15s, and the next 11O, okay? And you want to kind of push it up so that this is as snug as it can get, you know, so there's not like a ton of thread showing and it's a little loose. So just kind of cup, like just push it. It's not going to go very far, but just try and push it so that it's nice and snug there, okay? All right, so we're going to repeat that coming out from our next 11O here. We're going to go backwards through the 11O, down below, up through the bicone that we just added, and forward through the 11O, the two 15Os, and the next 11O. And again, you're going to kind of push it and give it a little pull, try and tighten that up nicely, okay? And it's going to kind of create like almost a saucer shape when it's like pulling up a little bit, okay? It should kind of cup upwards a little bit, and that's what you want, all right? So go ahead and repeat that 4 more times to get a total of 6 bicones on here, okay? Okay, so once you've added your 6th bicone, it should look like this, and it should kind of curve a little bit on the back like a button, okay? So that is our little smaller component. And now we're going to, this is optional if you don't want to hang a dangle down below. You don't have to do this, but we're just going to add this little loop right here. So make your way down. Once you've sewn forward from the last, adding the last bicone, just sew down the bicone that you just added a second ago, or you know, the first bicone. Sorry, I just added this one, so I'm sewing down the next bicone. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, you're going to sew through the 11O at the base, so sew backwards through that. Okay, you're going to sew through the next 15O that's right here, okay? And then you're going to pick up 3 15Os. Getting tangled. Okay, so get your 3 15Os, and then you're going to, so I'm right here coming out this 15O on the left. I'm going to kind of circle around, and I'm going to sew through this 15O, going back towards the 11O where I started from, okay, like this. And it's just going to create a little loop. And obviously you're going to want to reinforce that, so I would sew around it again. And that's where you can, when you make a loop for with your head pin, you can hang your dangle on that, okay? Or if you wanted to make this as an earring, you can use that as your earring attachment. Or in fact, even if you don't want to add the dangle, this does give a nice little like finish to the bottom of the shape. I thought even before I added the dangle, once I'd attached on this, I was kind of like, oh, I don't even know if I want to add a dangle, because it kind of finished the shape for me. So, you know, anyway. All right, so we now have our bottom section and we have our top section. Let's join them together. Okay, so I did sew in my ends, and I'm going to use a fresh piece of thread for this joining, just so that if, you know, something breaks, you can repair it without destroying the integrity of this area or that area, okay? And you're also going to want to make sure that you do figure out, like, where's the top and where's the bottom. So I've done that, and I've laid it like that, so I know my bugles are lined up correctly, okay? And I've got my other little bit here, okay? So you're going to, with your new piece of thread, go ahead, enter into, so what we want to do is we want to come out right from this top, the 15-0 right after our wave right here, okay? So what I would do is enter in to the 3mm before that. Again, just double check that you're holding it. Yeah, so it should be one that is next to where your bugles are pointing, okay? Okay, and then you're going to work your way down your 4 beads here, your 3 white ones, and then your lavender seed bead. Don't pull too tight or you'll just pull your thread straight out again. Okay, we just got to get in position. We are going to circle back and reinforce this. So, all right, and then you're going to go through your wave and that 15-0 that's before the round. Okay, so this is my bottom. I'm coming out the one before the bottom, coming out right here on the top side, okay? So what I did, I only used my Toho treasures for this, okay? I put my other beads away because it was kind of getting a little on my nerves, all the mess on my mat. Okay, so you're going to pick up a treasure and then a 3mm. If I can find the hole, there we go. A treasure and then a rondelle. Treasure, 3mm, and you're going to do that until you have 4 3mm and 3 rondelles, okay? And you're going to end with a treasure. Okay, so you should have treasure, 3mm, treasure, rondelle, treasure, 3mm, treasure, rondelle, treasure, 3mm, treasure, rondelle, treasure, 3mm, and end with a treasure, okay? So you've got 4 of the 3mm and 3 of the rondelles. On your lower down piece, so that's the bottom where my little dangle holder is, okay? You're going to enter into this 3mm round, okay? And then you're going to pass over here and you're going to exit from the 15-0. So you're going through the 3mm, the 11-0, and the 15-0, but not into the central 11-0, okay? So if that's the bottom, I'm going into those 3 beads there. Okay. And go ahead and pull that. Again, we're not pulling super tight here because we don't want to pull out our end here. Okay, then we're going to pick up one of our treasures. You're going to pick up one of your 8mm bubbles, okay? And you're going to pick up 2 more treasures. So a treasure an 8mm, and 2 treasures. Okay. Okay, so once you've got that one, you're going to sew just through this middle 3mm. So don't go into the 15/0, just that 3mm. Okay, and you pull. You're going to pick up 2 more treasures, and you're going to go straight into the 8mm and the treasure down below. So you're not entering into the 2 up here, you're only entering into the 8 and the 11, okay? And try and get the tension even on both sides if you can, okay? Like this, right? Just kind of, if it's not perfect, that's okay, because we're going to go back and reinforce this in a second, okay? So then you're going to enter into the 15/0, the 11/0, and the 3mm on the right. So you're not going into the 11 that's kind of in the middle here, right? So we're coming up here and down here. We're not going into this 11 right here, okay? And then you're going to pick up the same thing that you picked up on the other side. So 11, 3mm, 11, rondelle, okay? Same pattern. So you should have 4 3mm and 3 rondelles, and there should be a seed bead in between all of those, and one at the front and one at the end. Okay, so like this. And then you're going to sew straight up into the 15/0 and the wave bead. And go ahead, pass through the 11/0 if you can as well. I'm going to have to do that separately. I can't get through there. Okay, so if you need to adjust tension or whatever, you can, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to circle around. So you're going to go up through the 11, through your rondelle. You're going to circle over this loop here. Boop, 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 boop. You're going to come back down, and you're going to go all the way back and reinforce all of that, okay? And then that section will be finished. You can then get your head pin, okay? I just put mine, I put my 8mm, I put a rondelle, and then I did a wrapped loop and hung it from here like this, okay? And then you're free to do whatever you want to do at the top. I'll come back in a minute and show you what I've done with mine once I've figured that out, okay? All right, so I hope that all makes sense. And yeah, sorry I've kind of like said a lot in this video, but you know, it's a very pretty project. It's worth it if you have persevered this far. Okay, see you in a minute. Hi guys, so I'm going to show you how I finished off my necklace, or how I'm finishing it off. I'm doing it right now. So I got a really long piece of thread, just normal thread. I strung through the top area, and then I just added hang on, bring you in. So I added, and I'm only using the Toho treasures here, okay? I added a treasure, a 3mm, a treasure, a rondelle, a treasure, and then I added an 8mm, okay? I added another rondelle, so there's a rondelle on either side of the 8mm. And then I added a 3mm, 6mm bicone. So all of them have a Toho treasure in between, okay? So either side of that, I put a 3mm round, and then I did another 8mm, then I did another 6mm, and then I just continued on doing essentially what was the pattern here, okay? Until I got to the length that I needed, okay? And then I made a little loop, and I went back down and I went back through here. I had to switch to a smaller needle to get through there. I'm going to leave that end. So I centered my thread. So now I'm using the other side of the thread to repeat the pattern. And yes, I did accidentally put 2 right here, but I'm going to leave it because, you know, it's handmade. I'm going to show you how I did the loop really quickly. So I put on 3, hang on. Okay, I put on 3 beads and then I picked up 5 more. Okay, so 5. So I pushed that all down. So essentially you've got 8 on the end. You're going to go up through the 5th bead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go back up towards the end through that 5th bead, okay? And because this is my second side, I really have to make sure that everything is as tight as can be, because I'm not going to be able to tighten it later, okay? So snug everything down on your second one especially. Coming out from the 5th bead, pick up 1 bead, go through the next bead on your loop, okay? So you have this. You're going to skip the next bead and go into the following bead. And what you want is you want that skipped bead to kind of pop up a little bit like this, okay? Pick up 1 more bead, go into the very next bead. So I now have this kind of diamond shape, and then you're going to go straight back down through all these beads, all the way down until you meet up with your tail, and then you can tie a knot, okay? So when you do that, this will center itself. See how it's automatically centered itself, and then you can put a jump ring through there in order to attach on your toggle clasp, okay? And that'll be nice and safe. The jump ring won't fall off of that, okay? So you should have that at both ends, okay? So I just need to sew down here and then I'll be done. But anyway, you can kind of see now what the necklace looks like. And I think it turned out really, really nice. And yeah, I know it's a long project. It's a bit of an advanced project, but it's worth it. It's so nice, okay? So if you made it this far, congratulations and well done. Okay, guys, I hope you have picked up your box, your collection. If you haven't already, go and check it out. I will be also making a different pair of earrings. We're gonna play with some of the other colors in the box in the collection for another video. So check back for that, and happy making. Bye.